Good afternoon, everyone. This is RAND, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Sunday, April 28, 2024, a little after 3:15 p.m. Eastern. The TFCC call that I'm doing on Wednesday night is, I would suggest that everybody and anybody be there. Every experience in our lives has the potential to become a spiritual experience. Even the most ordinary, mundane human happening can expand into a vast, deep, and exquisite connection with divinity. The secret, however, for the discovery, is learning how to get your mind to move out of the way and allow your spiritual presence to flow through. One thing that can help you to let go and let the divine take over is realizing how fun it is to take your hands off the steering wheel of this life. Choosing the path of lightness, non-seriousness, and playfulness is a frequency that makes space for that higher spiritual quality to settle into our inner world. Once our demanding ego sees how much easier and sweeter life can be, it immediately surrenders to this playful connection with divinity. The moment your serious ego can fully trust in this life, it can let go. And you will feel this more spiritual experience of this life instantly. Whatever problems you thought you had instantly fade away. Each time you can see life through this non-serious lens. And the very moment you decide to feel a benevolent force bigger than yourself, the magic starts to manifest. Sometimes it can be scary for the ego to let go of control. Yet it's also quite addictive because it feels so liberating and healing. The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. Carolyn Miss. Perhaps the craziest and most ironic aspect about stepping onto our spiritual path is this. We already are an infinite spiritual being who cannot die. We just forgot this truth. We forget it every day. We forget because we're only focusing our mind on things of this world that are not infinite, unbounded, or eternal. If you thought about what is infinite and eternal, you would tap into the frequency more. The more your mind dwells on what's limited and finite, the more you lose touch with that infinite quality that is your spiritual nature. However, don't beat yourself up for not being able to remember you're an infinite being who will never die. The perpetual forgetting of our true infinite nature is the state of common ignorance that the majority of this world is currently in. Everyone has forgotten this truth and continues to forget they are an eternal being that lives forever. Now, the deeper issue is that it's normal in Western culture to be ignorant of our spiritual nature. Everyone is seeking, yet nobody is finding. At least you don't hear about it so often. And when you do find it, you may even feel it is blasphemy to say you are no longer separate and feel totally one with God. If someone approaches you to ask you about your spiritual nature, you may not tell them the details of your spiritual experience simply because of the questions and shocking disbelief they may throw at you. Maybe it's not worth it to tell anyone. just to radiate your light and love is enough. The collective consciousness is very influential. This is what causes every spiritual being to forget again and again and again, even a few minutes after remembering. Our spiritual amnesia is not accidental. It's an essential part of the divine plan. We need to be asleep first to know that we've been awakened. Yet the more awareness we can bring to this spiritual amnesia, the easier it is it becomes to liberate ourselves from it. Surrendering the ego to divinity is like a cup of water being released into the ocean. Surrender means releasing the grasp of your identification with the limiting beliefs you've formed all around this infinite you. Completely let go of attachment to whoever and whatever you believe you are. There is nothing more frightening and exciting than this. Who would you be after deleting all the limiting beliefs, ideas, assumptions, and past wounds that you've built up around yourself? The moment you detach from your ego, you are forced to feel the vast unknown of infinite possibilities. There's nothing to cling to in this super expansive, highly liberating space. And that's the whole point. We are reabsorbed back into the ocean of existence. So if your ego is resistant to merging with the spiritual source, you will experience challenges, pain, and suffering. It resists because that would mean the death of it. The idea of being absorbed by the infinite ocean can make the ego go crazy and oscillate between embracing death and rebirth all at the same time. Yet the results of accessing this ocean of spiritual energy inside you creates a profound life change as you stop living in fear and start trusting in divinity. Listen to the sound of waves within you. Rumi. This level of absorption into the ocean is not just a one-time phenomenon, however. You'll need to perpetually let go of attachment to your ego all day long until it does not reattach itself. This is the foundation of every spiritual path. These self-imposed identities that make up our ego are invented so that they can be released, and having 100% release is what creates a spiritual experience out of any ordinary human experience. Do it for yourself. Take any normal experience you're having every day, such as washing dishes, cooking, cleaning, showering, the whole thing. And let your ego realize that it can relax because it is no longer in charge of your entire life. Allow for this loss of power and control over your life. And instead, notice how every action is being done through you, and you are always guided by divinity. The more often you can let this happen, the easier life will become. Everyone you relate with in your community will feel the liberating change of how you've stopped giving all of your energy to the ego. As Patanjali Sutra quoted, to cling to life is to cling to the five senses. to normal consciousness, and thereby shunning the superconsciousness within which the Atman is known, or the God. The greatest source of bliss, joy, and love is always available within you. In each new moment, you have the opportunity to drop into your heart and let your ego go. It will stop running the show when you're comfortable ignoring it. Whatever we focus on grows, right? We all know that. So as we retrain our brain to see the possibility that an all-intelligent, deeply eternal, loving spiritual source is behind every experience, the divine intelligence will present itself to you more clearly and consistently. With the frequency of 100% trust in your heart, divinity suddenly becomes super obvious. You have 50% trust you'll receive a smack in the face every day to wake you up. The divine is omnipresent and omnipotent, so you won't be able to deny its reality. The more often you can see how your ego has to eventually give your entire life over to divinity, the more it melts away all these old, primitive ideas of you and liberates the entangled, limited beliefs that you've created around yourself. And the only thing blocking you from having a spiritual experience all the time, even while you're reading, it doesn't matter, is your attachment to ideas which says you're separate from divinity. Drop the idea, and you're instantly free. Yet, the mind has a deep subconscious grip on what it believes is reality, and will do everything to not let it go. By bringing more awareness to this grip, seeing that it is clinging out of pure fear of the unknown, you can slowly step through it. Healing is awakening to the perfection that already is ours. Baird T. Spalding. Inner peace doesn't come from getting what you want, but from remembering who we are. Marianne Williamson. The good news is that we can retrain our brain to remember these great liberating spiritual truths. This final piece for you today is a sacred assignment that will penetrate your spiritual amnesia to the core. Just for this, let's say this coming week, I invite you to make time to read, to listen, to comprehend spiritual awakening. All right? This is an affirmation. And again, it's first thing in the morning. A lot of people say, man, if I did everything you wanted me to do in the morning, I'd never get anything done. Well, that's quite the opposite. Okay, so it's a very simple mantra. Very, very, very simple. And what is it? I am the source of the divine. And you say that every morning. Say it as many times as you like. I am the source of the divine. That's all. Now you could do this for 21 mornings in a row. And your spiritual essence will surely find its way into you. As long as you practice giving up your ego's resistance to it and its need to be right about whatever, you'll find the affirmation opens something profound in you. Now, if you want every experience in this life to be a spiritual experience, it's all about surrendering to these higher spiritual truths and seeing your daily reality from a spiritual paradigm. Remember, the ego will probably put up a huge fight and resist any pressure you put on it to surrender. Don't push the ego. Just focus on your spiritual practice with persistence and patience. Eventually, the ego will discover that it's holding on in fear. And that fear is the first necessary step to have this deeper spiritual experience of letting go into trust. No matter how many times you succeed and fail in integrating this higher truth, remember that every experience you have, and so we say fail or succeed, those are just experiences. Remember that every experience you have in this life is the right experience. Every experience is a necessary step on your soul's journey into awakening. There are no accidents or coincidences, as we know. The more we struggle in this life, the greater the freedom we can feel. Every experience is completely perfect, which means our entire life is perfect, exactly as it is. And how many of us have contentment? Content, right? When was the last time you felt completely content? You remember? And contentment is one of the mindsets we use to direct our consciousness towards oneness. Oneness for all of us. Name of the game in everything. True contentment is not just existential. It is an attitude of the soul rather than the ego or personality. It is a view of this life from the soul plane. Love and compassion are emotions that arise from the soul. When you identify with your soul, you live in a loving universe. The soul loves everybody, like the sun. Brings out the beauty in each of us. You can feel that love radiating from your heart. When we are in that love, we enjoy just being wherever we are. You ever done that? Sure you have. There is a lot to be said for contentment like that. Think of the kinds of experiences that give you a feeling of contentment. Maybe your contentment comes from being in nature, listening to the birds or the sound of the waves meeting the shore, looking at the sunset or the stars in the night sky, or contemplating a rose in the garden. Maybe it comes from singing or listening to music, sinking into a warm bath, or being touched in a way that eases the body. Maybe it comes from watching your child or being with your dog or cat. Maybe you experience it when looking into the eyes of a loved one. Those are experiences that touch your soul. Contentment isn't high on the priority list in this country. we're all about achievement and consuming, getting more. Maybe, just maybe, we're afraid the wheels of progress and the economy will grind to a halt if everybody becomes content. I remember someone once accusing meditators of bovine passivity, living in the moment, being fully present is anything but passive. But it does lead to a profound feeling that everything is just enough, a feeling of deep contentment. And you are ever again the wave sweeping through all things. Since the day when I met with my Lord, you're meeting with who? The God within you. There has been no end to the sport of our love. The worst punishment is to throw someone out of your heart. Okay? You should not disturb anyone's heart. Even if a person hurts you, give them love. When you love God, you overcome all impurities. When that statement, when you love God, that means when you love the God that you are within that body. And a lot of people have and it's ego mind, okay? But we have this propensity, like when you hear the words, you should love everyone as God. If you do not love each other, you cannot achieve your goal. If you really truly don't love yourself, you're not going to love anybody else, even though the ego mind convinces you that you do. And, a lot of times the ego mind can make you think you're operating from the heart mind, and you're not. This is why I always suggest to step away from the mind and the ego. Watch it as a watcher, not a judger. That's how we learn in the now. Now, enlightened, right? Christ, enlightened one, said to love all beings as children of God and serve them. Well, all of us are God within these bodies. Question is, do we serve them? Well, there's a little kind of a wave there where if you don't serve yourself, you're not going to ever be able to serve anybody else. So, see, we have things, right? We have clothes, we have buildings, homes, we have transportation, vehicles, we have stuff, we have things. And it's like you'll see the past and the different gurus and people throughout the ages where, like, give everything to the poor, even your clothing. Give it all away. this meaning is, if you've never had anything, right? If you have something and lose it, you then really begin to appreciate what you do have. Okay? And you also know that if you do not give, right? Any of us, do not give. And I mean, it could be a hug, a smile, a kiss, a laughter, a lot of things. But if we don't give that to other versions of ourselves as gods, what do you think will happen? Now, there's a lot of beings on this planet as I speak that have practiced that throughout the ages. No longer will be able to practice this because they'll no longer be around. You see how it works? For any of us, all of us. It isn't a direction, okay, this is tailored for you, this is tailored. It's for all of us. Now, how would you believe that anybody, how do you believe that people do meditate? Question can be posed to you. How do you meditate? I mean, the enlightened one, Christ, right? He was asked, how do you meditate? And his answer was, he lost himself in love. He also said, that Christ himself was one with all beings, and he had great love for all in this world. Of course, we know there's a lot of things that were the beliefs and everything, but those are pretty key. How can you not be love? How can you not feel love if you are love? Isn't that interesting? What keeps us from that? The ego mind. That's what keeps us from that. Now, if any of you have been to the hospital, right? And you're in the hospital, whatever you're having taken care of. In the hospital, you end up paying all your attention full-time to your body, right? You do. So you're attending to your body, as most people do. That's a symptom. What's the symptom? It's a symptom of separateness. Now, if we were really living in the one, there'd be no difference between soul consciousness and body consciousness. It's like hospitals are body-oriented. They're body shops. And to most of the hospital staff, you are the guy or the gal in room such and such with whatever the situation, broken hip, leg, contusions, bruises, whatever. That's who you are in their professional view. Now, nurses and doctors are souls whose roles include seeing the problems of the body and treating them. So they must know, right? The overwhelming mindset in a hospital is that we are our bodies. But aren't we also souls? You may say, I'm in this carnation to learn about my true self, to learn about my soul. Along the way, I have also learned about strokes and broken hips, whatever your ailments. You learn you can think above them in many different ways. In our minds, the body is out there. And the soul, the I, is in here. To get to my soul, I have to choose to turn my attention inward instead of outward. But I have to turn it selectively inward. Because at the same time, the body is demanding attention. And I better decide where my foot should go, or I'm going to get myself killed. So I tend to my body when it's time to. The rest of the time, I work on being a soul. You see, you kind of look at it. You got your soul over here, and you got your body. Obviously, you pay attention to a certain extent your body and how it's working, how you're feeling, right? But then all the other time is spent on the soul. In this civilization, the majority of us spend just about all of our time with the body. And we have this mindset. You can have different perspectives, which we do. The workings of the body are grist for the mill to get to the soul. It's tough work because these bodies really capture our attention. Learning to swim is nothing compared to learning to live from the soul plane. In our minds, the body is out there, and the soul, the I, is in here. The body and soul are like a coach and horses. You know, coach with the horses pulling it. And the coachman to drive it. The horses are desires. Coachman is the ego. The I that controls the desires and looks where he's going and makes sure the foot doesn't go in the wrong place. But inside the coach is a passenger who is riding in the coach. Okay? Who is riding in the coach? It's our soul. Coachman, would you stop, please? Coachman, you're going a little too fast. I'm riding in my coach, and now and then my coach needs a grease job or a new bearing or a joint replaced. I'm in the coach shop for a hip joint, and there the coach repair experts. That's fine as long as I know who I am, that I am not the coach, that I am a passenger inside the coach, riding along merrily, merrily, merrily. On the outside, I'm recovering from hip replacement operations. It's just anybody, could be in the hospital. But inside, I'm dancing. I look like an old fart. But I'm dancing inside. And what a joyful, joyful, joyful dance. Dances, different words. We have different versions of dances. One word is lila, right? The dance or the love play of the soul. And you can join in the lila anytime, or lila, because it's always going on here, in this moment. It never stops. It's like, did one lose their soul in the hospital? Well, maybe. Maybe you lost the connection with your soul for a while. but you didn't lose your soul. Where could it go? You're still here. You may even have a new hip. And you might even be hippier than you were. We know that within our consciousness, all of us are these different points of view. There's the ego, and there's the soul, our spiritual self. They are two different planes of consciousness. From the spiritual vantage point, we are all souls who have come in to these incarnations. We take birth, and this is our incarnation. Here we are, each of us, an individual being. Now imagine, okay, you take a bus from point A to point B. Bus, right? And you take a bus up to a village in the mountains. And the people in that village knew they were souls. One was sweeping the road, and another was the governor. The governor was not just a governor, and the sweeper was not just busy being a sweeper. They had these roles for this incarnation, but they also identified themselves as souls. So you go back to point A. Let's say you take a plane. Plane door opens in New York. Everyone thought they were roles. Not souls, but roles. So as you pop back and forth from point A to point B, America to India, whatever, because of the pull of the incarnation, we get so deeply into our roles that we forget we are souls. With all the sensations, emotions, and complications of being in a body, all the desires, we forget. We think, I am a man, I am a woman, I am from California, I am a mother, I am a father, a widow, a child, or something. I've got to be something, don't I? Think of all the ways you identify yourself with what you do. I am a teacher. I am a doctor. I am a scientist. I am a cook. A Jew or Christian or Muslim or stockbroker. I am an achiever. I am a spiritual seeker. That one can carry you for years. Quote unquote, I am retired. All that is the ego. Who you think you are. The cluster of thoughts about how you identify yourself. Thoughts about different roles that you play in society. And when we meet someone, we ask, how do you do? And what do you do? But is what you do the same as who you are? Every one of our roles is a thought form. We confuse our souls with our roles. You don't see me as a soul, right? You see me as Jared, as a body, a role. What does it matter whether I'm a cellist or a pilot or a teacher? When you strip away the roles, this outer form is just the body. Who I am is just here. Instead of how do you do, how about how do you be? Our inner being is beyond form. When you live from your soul and your heart is open, you can awaken other souls. You go into a grocery store and it's like a temple. Everybody is a soul. Some think they are customers. Some think that they work there. You get to the checkout and your eyes lock for an instant with the clerks. Are you here? I'm here. Wow, a fellow soul. If you have children, your children are souls. They're just playing the roles of children. You're in the mother or father role. If you're with a dying person and you see them as a soul, that transition from ego to soul is easier to make. If, as a caregiver, you're identified with your soul, it is easier to see the dying person as a soul and to ease their transition. When we plumb the moment, this moment, not back then, not the future, but this moment, we get deeper and deeper and deeper into the universal heart of being. Finally, being in the moment blossoms into everything and nothing. It's all in this moment. This moment is always here. Now is eternal. That joy you get from being completely in the moment brings what? Contentment. Contentment as a practice is different from satisfaction. It's not a feeling of accomplishment from doing something. Contentment is just being complete in the moment. Burrow into the moment. Then you're in the moment. And here we are in the moment. If something is taking me out of the moment, I'll say, what am I doing here? Or, what is it that blocks my contentment? It's raining. Doesn't rain make me content? The flowers are so grateful, and the rain is just beautiful. Little drops on the window. They're each like little globes. And now, I'm content. I'm content to take a nap without thinking. I should be doing something else. I'm even content to have a broken hip that's healing. It's part of the body growing old. But I am just here. You begin to get the idea, right? That you are in your soul. And when you look at others, you see their souls. You still see the individual differences, men and women, rich and poor, attractive and unattractive, and all that stuff. But when we recognize each other as souls, we are seeing each other as aspects of the one. Love is the emotion of merging, of becoming one. Love is a way of pushing through into the one. We treat love and hate and the other emotions like they are all on the same level, but they're not. Hate, fear, lust, greed, jealousy, all that comes from the ego. Only love comes from the soul. When you identify with your soul, you live in a loving universe. The soul loves everybody. It's like the sun. It brings out the beauty in each of us. You can feel it in your heart. Learn the art of taking your stand on the truth within. When you live in this truth, the result is the fusion of the mind and the heart, and the end of all fears and sorrow. It is not a dry attainment of mere power or intellectual knowledge. A love which is illuminated by the intuitive wisdom of the Spirit will deeply and eternally love your life with ever-renewing fulfillment and never-ending sweetness. Meher Baba. You can stay in touch with your soul. Like I've had people say, how do you stay in touch with your soul? You can stay in touch with your soul by dwelling in the moment. Soul is centered in your heart. It is the heart mind. Do your daily acts with love. That's what the soul can do. When you are identified with your soul, you not only reflect God's light, but you also become a mirror for others to find their souls. The only goal a soul has is to satisfy God and become one with the beloved, which is what is you are in that body. Everything is as it should be. Now you say that because you've surrendered to the One. The One makes this moment perfectly fulfilled. And then you become very peaceful inside. Go inside for peace. Go inside for passion. Go inside for wisdom. Go inside for joy. Go inside for love. I'll join you in a meditation. I'll return to close this out. Take an easy and slow breath in through the nose, and an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still. You can simply turn the handle to the door to the divine, which is always open, and walk right on through. Any experience can lead you through this sacred doorway. All it takes is focusing your awareness inward and remembering that you are not your body, you are not your mind, nor your emotions. You are so much greater than any thought or thing. You are the door and the one who walks through it. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into evening and night, and the following morning. We will return here Monday, April 29, 2024, to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be in the highest of the highest high, deepest of the deepest deepest, and purest of the purest purest, eternal gratitude at all times. And experience the feeling